Hi, welcome back to my channel. My name's Caroline. What's up? So today I wanted to do another DCP video just because I haven't done one since I posted the why I'm leaving video. Today I wanted to talk about a few like funny stories, I guess, from my time at the DCP, because there were quite a few interesting interactions, we'll say, with guests. I also wanted to do something for all the people who like kind of subscribed because of that video, because it means a lot to me that so many people subscribed from that video and so many people watched it. So I wanted to kind of give you guys a little bit of something other than just like my regular day-to-day life kind of stuff. Today we got some fireworks in the background. I thought it was cute. Kind of fits the Disney vibe in my opinion. So before we begin, I do just want to say I'm not speaking for the company. I'm speaking on my personal experiences with guests. I just want to tell my stories because I want to share them. I want to share the like real experiences that you would have on the DCP, because there are so many people who have such similar experiences to me and my coworkers and my friends. Like everyone has at least one or two stories about some interesting guests, we'll say. So I just wanted to put that out there before I say anything. I just want to make sure that you guys know that I'm not trying to trash people or anything. I'm just being honest about things that I experienced on the DCP. So I guess we'll just get straight into it. So just a little bit of a preface before I go into any of the stories. I worked at the Riviera Resort. I was quick service food and beverage. So that kind of just means like I was just like the restaurant cafeteria staff. But at the Riviera, the cafeteria is less like a cafeteria and more like a sit-down restaurant. People would come up to us all the time and ask us if like they needed a reservation for our restaurant and everything, which you don't. You can do it on mobile order. Like it was one of those, but it was fancy because it was at the Riviera. So that out of the way. Now you know where I was working and the kinds of people that I was dealing with. This was a deluxe resort, like fancy. Everyone there is like rich because it's expensive. Anyway, now I'll get into the story. My first experience happened around the 50th anniversary. So that I was there before and during the 50th anniversary celebration. So that means that on October 1st, everything kind of switched over to 50th anniversary stuff. We used to have these mugs and they were just like reusable mugs, and we set them for like 2 weeks. So you can go to the fountains and refill them at any hotel quick service, basically. Anything that had like the Coke machines that we had, you could refill it because it had like a chip on the bottom. And the entire length of your stay, you got free refills, basically. And so for the 50th anniversary, they decided that they were going to take those ones away and bring in some 50th anniversary ones. So the week of the 50th, everybody knew about these mugs for some reason. Everyone knew about them, but our resort for some reason did not get them until about like 5 or 6 days after October 1st, which was the day that everything was supposed to be 50th anniversary. And so we just had to keep sending people to other resorts that had them. And the thing was too, the distributor did not tell anyone where they were dropping people like these mugs off and who was next. Like no one had like a list of like which resorts were getting the mugs on which days. So we just kind of had to go by what guests were telling us about the mugs. But basically our whole script that week was the resort literally right next door, the Caribbean Beach Resort, is on the Skyliner. And so is Pop and Art of Animation. Pop Century and Art of Animation are at the end of the Skyliner. And all three of those resorts had the 50th anniversary mugs before we did. So basically what we were doing was we were just saying, hey guys, like, sorry we don't have the mugs, but if you hop on the Skyliner, literally go 1 or 2 stops, the cafeteria is right there and they will be able to give you guys the mugs because they have them. Like we heard from other guests that they have them in stock. There were a couple of resorts that had them and a couple of resorts that didn't. It was really random. Like no one knew who was getting them next or anything. But yeah, so this takes place during that time period. Sorry, that was like a long preface. I feel like I just needed to explain what was going on. This is probably like October 3rd or 4th. Like it's like a couple days after the 50th. We still didn't have the mugs. So this woman comes in and she's really upset about the fact that we don't have the mugs. And my friend was trying to help her out. She was trying to calm her down. And so she was like, yeah, like if you want to go over to Caribbean, like It's fine. And I was like overhearing all of this. She was greeter, so she was standing at the door just like saying hi to people, helping people with mobile orders. And I was Bev Island, so I was like literally, we were like right next to each other. This means nothing to anyone who has not worked there, but those locations are right next to each other, like those positions. So I came over and I was like, hey, like, is there anything we can do to help? Like, I overheard that you were looking for the 50th mug. And she was like, yeah, I'm just really upset that you guys don't have it. Like, I pay so much money for this resort. Like, I pay so much money to stay here. I came here specifically for the 50th anniversary. Like, basically, she was just like raging about the fact that we don't have the 50th anniversary mug. And this had happened before. So I basically just said, yeah, well, I know my friend has told you that our next door neighbors, the Caribbean Beach Resort, have the mug, but if you're worried about like them not having it in stock or like wasting your time going over there, I totally understand. I would personally just place a mobile order for it, and then you can go and they'll have it there ready for you, and you'll know whether or not they have them. And instead of being like, oh yeah, like that's so great, that's so amazing, thank you, she got even more mad and said, I pay so much money to stay here. Why don't you have my mug? And I was like, I'm sorry, ma'am. Like, we really don't have control over who gets them. Not even our managers know when we're going to get them in. Like, this is totally random. Like, they should have had them in a week ago. I totally agree with you, but they haven't brought them in, and I don't really know what else we can do for you other than send you over to a different resort. And this is when she said the funniest line I think I've ever heard from a guest in my entire life. She said, I pay money, DVC points, to stay at a deluxe resort. Why would I go to a moderate resort to get my mug? I'm just gonna let that sink in for a second. Yes, she did say that. To her, I probably said, yeah, I'm so sorry about that. Honestly, I wish that we could do more for you, but unfortunately, that is the best that we can do at this point. And then she just kind of got mad and stormed off, you know, how they do. And so, like, there was nothing else we could do. There was literally nothing we could do. We didn't have any of them. Like, it's not like we were hiding them in the back. But yeah, so it was just the thing that I found really funny was the fact that she decided that the reason why she didn't want to go to a Caribbean resort was not because it was too far away or because they might not have it and, like, might be out of stock and she didn't want to waste her time. No. She didn't want to rub elbows with people staying at a moderate resort. Yes, I worked at a very fancy, high-end resort in Disney World, but it's literally less than a mile. It's like a half a mile walk or like 10 minutes on the Skyliner. But she just didn't want to go to a resort with people that were not as rich as her. Moderate resorts are still expensive. That's the other thing. Like, just because your one bedroom didn't cost you $1,000 a night, it still costs like $400 a night to stay at one of those resorts. I couldn't afford to stay there with my discount. Like, I just don't, I don't even know how to form a sentence about this because it's so ridiculous to me that someone would care that much about how much someone spends on a hotel. And that's that story. I just thought it was so funny. Like, it was just such a ridiculous thing to be angry about. And this has stuck with me for months. Like, it's April. It's been 6 months since this happened. And I still think about it every single day because I think it's so funny. But yeah, so that's that one. So the next story I'm going to tell actually happened on my like second to last day. Like third to last day, actually. This was my last day at the quick service location. I had 2 more days where I was at the coffee shop location. So this happened on my last day of work at my original location. Something important to note is during this time, the mask mandates were still in effect. This was like February. They didn't get rid of them until late February, early March, I think. I don't remember exactly when, because I was gone when they got rid of them. So the entire time I was working there, we had the mask mandates. Obviously, people always have things to say about the mask mandates, but since I had been working there for so long, I felt like I had heard it all, and I was like, okay, I don't really care anymore. I'm just gonna enforce masks. And honestly, this is gonna sound kind of ridiculous, but like, it was a scary thing for us to have to enforce masks for people because you never knew how someone was going to react to the mask mandate. I have had people compare Disney to the Holocaust and concentration camps because of this. People get very offended. But I personally, I'm not saying my stance on this. I don't want to get into any kind of political anything on this channel. I just want to say that my job was to enforce these mandates. That is what I had to do every single day. And it was a scary thing. There were people who would come in. There was a man, this is not the story that I'm going to tell, but this is kind of ridiculous and I just wanted to put it in here. There was one man that came in and ordered food with a slit cut in his mask and then sat down at a table, and I asked him to put his mask on, and he said, I'm sitting at a table, and I said, well, unfortunately, since you're not eating or drinking, you need to be wearing your mask. And he was like, okay. And then he puts it on, and I realized that there was a hole cut in it. I tried to offer him a new mask, but there was like nothing I could do because he was wearing one, technically. Like, I did not know what to do. I was just like, I don't want to fight with this man. Like, that's the kind of people that I was dealing with. That's the kind of things that I was dealing with on a daily basis, that all of my coworkers were dealing with on a daily basis. And so this was my second to last day, and this family comes in, and they are with a cast member. And I know this because they were wearing the Pixie Dust cast member mask. I'll try and find a picture of it. If you don't know, costuming gave out specific masks for us to wear, but we could also just wear the regular medical blue masks. But yeah, so there was a man with a family, and the family was ordering their food or whatever. The husband was ordering from me, and I realized that the wife had a mug in her, one of the refillable mugs. She had one in her hand, and she also had her mask in the same hand. And so I was like, hi ma'am, like, do you mind putting on your mask for me? It's just like policy. If you're not actively eating or drinking, we just need you to be putting on your mask. And by actively eating or drinking, I mean like taking a sip of something or putting something in your mouth, basically. So just holding a cup doesn't mean that you're drinking it, if that makes sense. So that was what happened. And the man that was ordering from me immediately he yelled no. And I was like, I'm sorry. And he's like, she was drinking her coffee. First of all, this man was facing me and she was behind him, and she wasn't drinking her coffee. She was holding her coffee in her hand. And so this man, I was like, sorry, sir, I unfortunately did not see her taking a sip of her coffee. And our policy is if you're not actively eating or drinking, you have to be wearing your mask. And so she put it on, like whatever, it was fine. But the man just refused to let it go that I asked her to put on the mask. And he was like, no, this is ridiculous. This needs to end. Like, this is absolutely ridiculous. How is it any different? And this is something I would get all the time. He said, how is it any different from me sitting at that table for 45 minutes when I eat my lunch? And I said, well, at that point, you will be actively eating or drinking, so you are allowed to take off your mask. But right now, since you are not actively eating or drinking, we are speaking to each other. It's for the safety of everyone that we all put our masks on and keep them on. And so he was just really upset. I had a friend next to me. My friend Nate was next to me, and he was kind of like backing me up. He was like, sorry, sir, like it is the policy, and she wasn't drinking, so she needs to be wearing her mask. So the man starts storming around. I have Nate backing me up, but he starts just kind of like throwing a fit and saying like, this is absolutely ridiculous. I can't believe that this is like still happening. It's 2022, like whatever. And he also ended up comparing Disney to Nazi Germany at one point. So that was fun. It was kind of like a running theme. Anyway, so I offered to grab my managers for him because he kept saying that it was not my fault. It was my leadership's fault. And I said, I would be glad to grab you a leader or a coordinator to come out and speak to you about this. But unfortunately, that is the policy, and the only thing I can do is enforce it. He would say, no, I don't want to speak to a manager. I want you to take it back. Like, basically, that's like basically what I was getting from what he was saying. It didn't really make any sense why he didn't want to speak to a manager originally. So I didn't really call anyone until 5 minutes later. He was like, no, I need a manager. And I was like, okay. So I called my manager, and this phone call was so funny to me because I called my manager, and my manager was a man named Joe, who I love. He just doesn't take anything from anyone. And the leader on call that day was Olivia, and Olivia doesn't take anything from anyone either. So both of them, I knew exactly who was going to come out too. So I called Joe and I was like, hi, Joe, I have a guest here who is upset about mask mandates and would like to speak to someone about that. And he said, okay, that's fine. That's totally fine. I will be right there. And so I hang up and I turned to my friend Nate and I said, this one's going to be fun. Because I also have to let you guys know that I hate confrontation. I'm so bad with confrontation. I hate being yelled at. It makes me cry. So this entire time, it's been like 5 or 6 minutes of this man walking around yelling at me about mask mandates. And like, I was just regurgitating the same things. Like I couldn't say it any differently. And so I was at the point where like I was shaking, like physically like this. Like I picked up the phone and I was like this, like trying to call them. Like I was like, it was bad. But so I was like shaking. I was so anxious. I just wanted to get out of this situation. And I was so glad that he asked for a manager. So I turned to my friend Nate and I was like, this one's gonna be really, really fun. I hope I can stay to see it. So they come out and they take him into the hallway. And I immediately, as soon as he was gone, I said to Nate, I said, I'm gonna be right back. I just need to go to the back for a second. And he was like, totally fine. Like he knew what was about to happen because he's like my bestie. He knows how I am. And so I run into the cooler and I started crying. Like I was just like bawling my eyes out. And the thing that I think is amazing is you have to remember they were with a cast member. And when a cast member brings a guest to a resort, to a park, anywhere in Disney, on Disney property, they need that guest to be on the guest's best behavior, as if they worked there. When I had friends come to visit me, I always said like, hey, just so you know, like if we're gonna be drinking around the world at Epcot, like I will be cutting you off at some point if you are getting too rowdy because we can't get kicked out of the park. I'll lose my job. Like that's literally what it is. Like you can't do anything that you wouldn't do if you didn't work there, basically, if that makes sense. So the fact that they were with a cast member was a very interesting situation. It also was made even more interesting when Nate was finishing up the order that I was taking and the cast member comes up at the end and says, hi, do you guys do a cast member discount? Not for you, sir. I mean, we didn't anyway, but like, no. Are you kidding? The thing is too, this cast member saw me in the cooler. Cause like the cooler, it has like slats and stuff for all the drinks to go in, but there's like space between the top and the top of the drinks. And like you can see the person that's in there. So I was in there with the lights off crying in the cooler and this man was looking at me like he knew I was crying and then had the audacity to ask my best friend if he could get a discount on the food that the man who just screamed at me ordered. I was so insanely shocked. I was like, there's no way. When he told me that, I was like, in the end, they didn't really get through to him. The wife kept the mask on pretty much from what I know. I kind of hid from them for the rest of the day. But yeah, so that was something. But when the man was speaking to my leader, my coordinator outside, he ended up saying something about he moved to Florida to get away from the liberal crackheads and they're still here. And I just thought it was really funny. That he called me that. It wasn't anyone enforcing their political ideologies onto you. It was Disney enforcing their rules. When you book the hotel, it said, well, at the time when the mask mandate was still there, it said, just so you know, these are our COVID regulations. So it's not my fault that you didn't read that you need to be wearing a mask all the time in your COVID regulations when you made your trip. Like, that was a really bad day at work for me, if you couldn't tell. That was also my first ever opening shift at my location. My last day there was my first ever opening shift. Why would you do that to me? I got trained like 7 months before. It was a really bad day. Anyway, but yeah, so that was fun. And then I didn't get an ER that day after I got yelled at. So it was just a really fun day for me. Okay, so I guess we'll just like move into the last one. The last story didn't actually happen to me, but I just thought it was funny. So I'm just gonna tell it really quick. But basically, so I walked into work one day and this girl that I worked with comes up to someone standing next to me and she's like, you will not believe what this woman just said to me. And I was like, oh my God. So apparently what had happened was this woman came in from the bar next door, but this was I want to say like 2 p.m. Like the bar was open for like 3 hours at this point. And apparently some woman came in and was so off her head. Like she was so drunk that she was like causing so many scenes. And it was absolutely ridiculous. Since I wasn't there, this is going to be kind of like all over the place. But basically what I can understand what happened is she ordered a margarita pizza, and our margarita pizzas have like heirloom tomatoes on them. So some of them are like green and yellow and like orange instead of just red. So she got one with just yellow tomatoes on it. And she thought that it was a pineapple. So she returned her food and was just like livid that there was a pineapple on her pizza. It wasn't a pineapple because we don't have pineapple, but she was so convinced that it was a pineapple. Whatever. Anyway, so that is why she was returning her food. And the girl that I work with was like, unfortunately, it's going to take about 15 minutes since you ordered a pizza because we make them fresh, like blah, blah, blah. But if you wouldn't mind just like sitting down, I would be happy to bring it over to you. And she just kept making a scene. And one thing led to another, and she bent over. This is like a 70-year-old woman, first of all. Bent over and said, "What, are you going to smack me on the ass?" I was shook. I think this happened 5 minutes before I clocked in. Like literally 5 minutes before. Because everyone was like talking about it as soon as I walked in the door. And it was so funny. Somehow they get her to sit down and just eat her food. A leader came and they personally brought her the food. And they were like, "Here you go. Here's your remade pizza. Like, hope everything's okay. Blah, blah, blah," because apparently a leader had to be the one to make her sit down. So she sits down, she eats her food. What does she do? She leaves everything on her table. Everything. The open pizza box, the bag that it came in, which doesn't sound bad, but the way our restaurant works was you order your food, you pick up your food as if it's a mobile order, and then you sit down, you eat, or you bring it somewhere else, whatever, because it's all packed to go. So you eat your food, and then you throw out all of the boxes and everything that it comes in, and then we wipe down the tables. Like, that's how it was supposed to go. This woman leaves absolutely everything disgusting on her table and just walks out. And then me and my friend had to bus the entire table because we were on busser. So that was super fun. It's just like, people are so interesting. And working at Disney World, you find the most interesting people, in my opinion. Like, I think I met the most interesting people I've ever met in my entire life at Disney. And I don't know if that's like, some of them it's a good thing and some of them it's not a good thing. So those are my stories from working in Disney World. I just thought these stories were funny. I thought I would share a couple stories with you guys of what I had to deal with as a quick service cast member at a resort. Obviously, if you work in the parks, you have a lot more crazy guest interactions because people are a lot more confrontational, we'll say, in the parks. It's just like something that doesn't happen very often at my location. And I was very grateful for that, actually, because I had a lot less crazy guest interactions, like crazy guest confrontations, than a lot of my friends did. And I'm grateful for that because like I said, I hate confrontation. If you wanted a little bit of a snippet of what it's like to be a cast member at Disney World, I hope these stories helped you in some way. If you're applying for the DCP, let me know, like, if you guys want me to talk about the DCP a little bit more, because I feel like I'm running out of ideas for college program videos because I'm not there anymore. So if you guys have any questions or anything like that, leave them in the comments below because I would love to answer your questions. I would love to do like a little Q&A thing if you want. Just let me know what you guys want to see because I am totally fine with talking about the college program. And yeah, I guess that's the end of today's video. So thank you guys for watching if you watched all this far. Leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and leave a comment telling me what you guys want me to do next. But thank you for all of the support on my recent DCP video, the one from like a month ago. It's been doing really well, And I really appreciate that. I really appreciate all the people who followed me because of that. And yeah, I guess I'll leave now. All right. See you guys next time. Bye.